I know the law of diminishing return is catching up with us, but I'm sure I want to seek your indulgence because this is a very important deliberative session and we must benefit from each other. Before I delve into what I want to say, I want to join my colleague, His Excellency Governor Garissa, in bringing the apologies of His Excellency Captain Ali Roba. He's away to Moyale. He lost a relative. Apologies of Honorable Kuti and a number of other members of parliament. And I want to say this from a very informed position that the BBI process or any constitutional making process is a very, very dynamic, very complex, highly diverse process that we must always be prepared to listen, appreciate, and be tolerant, because that is the only way we can gain from each other. Equally, as one of your representatives, you know, we say experience is the best teacher. I'll take you back. There's something that the Honorable Omar has also alluded to. It's only fair, because I know most of us are young. For those of us who are young yesterday, we are old today. For those of us who are young today, tomorrow you will be old. That is successive generational changes. I'll tell you, if I ask you, since the making of the nation state of the Republic of Kenya, how many entities or how many groups actually govern Kenya? I'll tell you, Kenya, after the scramble of Africa, what we were calling in 1896 or thereabout, Kenya was first governed by a company called the British East African Company. And at that particular time, is there any Somali who comes from Isiolo or Kajiado or Busia or Nakuru? You know, in all those places we used to have Kambi Somalis. And I'll tell you the history of those Kambi Somalis. Even where you were born there, you may not know. As a result of that particular company, and later on with the emergence of the Kenya-Uganda Railway, the first group of Somalis actually were brought from Somaliland, the British Somaliland. And those are the groups that settled all over and formed part of the Kambi Somalis that you have seen in different parts of the Republic of Kenya. If you look at that particular aspect, from 1886 or 96 to 1920, Kenya was governed by one company, private company called the British East African Company. That is what brought together the Kenyans of different tribes under that particular company as a flagship, purely profit-motivated company. And then in 1920, that function was transferred to the colonial desk and Kenya became a colony. A colony that was governed from the colonial office. And then in 1962, of course, between 1920 and 1962, we have seen the emergence of different groups who are determined to fight for our independence, including the Mau Mau. And you can call it in your own local context, we had different groups. Those are the groups that who jealously fought for our independence. And then came in 1962, we have had a number of meetings, the Lancaster House Conference. One distinct group that missed one of the negotiations are people of Northern Kenya. Today, the consequence of missing that particular opportunity, what happened immediately after independence? We were governed with a constitution that we did not participate in the drafting and in the passage. And immediately after that, we have had the District Contagious Act. We have had the Emergency Act. We have had a number of laws that really degraded the existence of the people of Northern Kenya. That is because we did not participate. We were not there on the negotiation table. History repeats itself, and those are some of the things that we can call the missed opportunities or issues that we'll have dealt with, or our forefathers or those who are there will have dealt with. That is why today we have a God-sent opportunity. There's something that Honorable Omar has also alluded to. We have a representative democracy. Wavijana, nataka msikie hii. We have a representative democracy. And you know the history of this. Once upon a time, the people of Greece used to have a number of islands. They used to meet so many days. That is the birthplace of representative democracy. And that's why those of us whom you are interested with your leadership, we will not ask you to support something that we know does not take care of our interest. Personally, I participated in the birth of the August 2010 Constitution. In that particular document, there are three things. It's a collision of interest. When we were in Naivasha or Bomas, one group wanted pure presidential system. The people of Mount Kenya wanted a pure presidential system. The other groups who were led by the Honorable Raila Odinga from Nyanza wanted a pure parliamentary system. For us from the minorities, and I will not call ourselves then again minorities, we wanted devolution. Devolution that will take resources back to the villages, because that is one thing that we were really, really denied. There were negotiations. Negotiations that brought together the different emerging interests. And that is what gave us the current August 10 Constitution. And to be fair, that is the period that I can rightfully say we got our independence. August 2010 Constitution, that is the truth, because that is where the resources that have gone back to our counties for the last 7 or 8 years is more than the resources that went back to our former districts from independence to August 2010. These are the realities. How did we achieve that change? It is because of collaborative, deliberate participation in the national conversation. And this is why I really want to appeal to you. And I know that friend of mine from Madeira. Don't run away from negotiations. Participate in negotiations. Give your views. Say, this is where you think you ought to be. This is where you are. And this is why, for those of us who have gone through the document, I have gone through this document so many times. And I will tell you, it's not a perfect document. It is not a perfect document because this is a man-made document. It can never be perfect. It can never. That is why the August 2010 that we passed is not perfect. Even at the time when we were passing, we were saying 90% is good, 10% has issues. We say there will be another opportunity. And I'll tell you the secret here. Today's minorities might be tomorrow's majority. Take this. Roles change. Who told you you'll ever be a minority? Communities are increasing. The demographics are changing. And therefore, don't be static. Don't just say, I was a minority once upon a time. No. Open your sight. Expand your horizon of thinking. And participate confidently in the national discourse. That is the only way you can firmly and proudly say you are a member of this very progressive premier republic called Kenya. And that's what every citizen actually is expected to be. I have gone through these documents. I have developed a chart, analyzed the gains and the missed opportunities. And I will tell you, and I must accept, that this is not a perfect document. And there can never be a perfect document that has been prepared by a human being. There will always be shortfalls. That is why, recently, since this document was launched on 26 October, there has been national debate. The national debate that is meant to enrich, to inform, and ask, and that is what the president actually, on 26 October, appealed to Kenyans to read the document for themselves, interrogate the content, and apply their progressive minds on what can bring Kenyans together under that national inclusive program called the Handshake. For those of us who have been around, you know the history. For those of us who come from northern Kenya, for those of us who come from the pastoralist communities, you know the challenges that we have gone through both in underdevelopment and undevelopment and unemployment, underemployment, and these are things that cannot just be cured one night. These are things that we must be prepared to as part and parcel of the Republic of Kenya, as part and parcel of the citizen of the Republic of Kenya, to collectively be prepared to improve through our contributions, through our economic gains, and through our political participation. So I've looked at this particular document, having given that particular history. So the kind of governments that we have had, the British East African Company, the colonial government, we have had Mzee Kenyatta's government, we have had Mzee Moi government, we have had Kibaki government, and then Kibaki Raila. We have now Uhuru government. I'll tell you, for sure, I want you to compete. Today, and this is history, these are facts that cannot be denied. You can blind yourself, but these are facts, historical facts that will form part of our national archive. Today, the man in charge of our national treasury is a pastoralist from those sides of Marsabit. It's unthinkable. Unthinkable. Few years ago, unthinkable for somebody to trust the entire national covers with a pastoralist from northern Kenya. It's unthinkable. Today, the man in charge of the exploration of natural resources is a Turkana, from Turkana, the Honorable Munyes. Few years ago, it was unthinkable. Today, the man in charge of the entire East African community, a young guy, now old, from Mandera. The lady in charge of sports, genealogically speaking, from northern Kenya. Okay? He is also a pastoralist. We have the Honorable Tobiko in charge of the entire natural resources. If you compete 5 out of 22, and I want you to listen to this, if you compete 5 out of 22 cabinet ministers, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta has already appointed 23% of his cabinet to pastoralists. And then you want to call yourself a minority? I do not want to delve on the number of other opportunities. This is why we must participate in the political decision-making process if truly we want to count ourselves as loyal citizens. Because your role, your participation, your contribution is what is going to improve the socio-economic, political well-being of the people of Kenya. Having said this, I have had an opportunity to interrogate this particular document. I'll give you the gains. I represent a constituency called Eldas. I come from Ojia County. I come from northern Kenya. I'm a pastoralist. And I'm a Kenyan leader. And I have subjected this document to the benefits each of these categories will get. And I want to be bold without politics. I want to be candid without politics. Politics will come at its own time. There will be time. You know, as the late Professor George Saitoti said, there comes a time when, who can complete that phraseology? When the nation is more important than any particular individual. There comes a time when our collective interest as a country is more important than an individual interest. And this is the period where we are in right now. And as the youngsters, as the progressive leaders, as today's leaders, as tomorrow's leaders, this is why, politics aside, allow us, for those of you, and I know you are interested, once upon a time, I was also a youth, it will come at its own time. 2022 is still far. But right now, we must be prepared to independently participate in the interrogation of this document and look at what is good for Kenya, what is good for our country, what is good for the people of Kenya, and that is what is going to assist us. And I've looked at this. I'll tell you the gains. First of all, this document has 3 aspects. And this is why I think some of the comments that I've had might not have been informed by the content of the document. There are policy issues that will require an executive pronouncement that have been completely spelled out in this. His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta or other arms of the executive do not require to pass any legislations in order to make policy pronouncement. That is part of the report. That is one aspect of the report. Meaning today, just like we have had the social paper number 10 of 1960, 65, and many other documents that have been passed since then, what this document asks the executive to do in order to address some of the administrative gaps. In order to address, you know, in Kenya, we have many sources of law. The first source of law is the Constitution. The second source of law is an Act of Parliament. The third source of law are something called the subsidiaries. The fourth source of law is the customary law. The fifth is precedents. That is, I'm sure the lawyers, I saw the young guy here, Amin, who is a lawyer, precedent. The sixth is presidential pronouncement. Presidential pronouncement under the current constitution is only applicable where there's a lacuna in the law, where something is not explicitly specified. That's why the president issues executive orders. Those executive orders are meant to enrich the existing statutes. So currently what we expect is, because of the report, we expect His Excellency the President to issue a number of executive orders in order to meet some of the recommendations in this particular report. And then the other bit, which is clearly spelled out, is legislations, which has clear timelines. Again, this report says a number of areas have been identified for either amendments or deletions or inclusions or even new provisions to the current existing laws or any other new laws. So meaning therefore Parliament or the National Assemblies have a timeline to pass this. And therefore that does not again require a referendum or a constitutional amendment. Now the most difficult one is the one that requires a constitutional amendment. And that is where each one of you, and I know every one of us, is struggling to digest on what will inform. I have looked at this particular document, my dear brothers and sisters, over the last few weeks, and I'll tell you the gains. First, since we have said devolution because of resource allocation now has been increased from 15% to 35%. If we compete, most counties will be getting twice what they are getting right now. Honestly speaking, you may not have benefited, and I want you to separate just for a second. your individual interest and the interest of your county and the interest of the people of Kenya. You may not have benefited. You may not agree with Keynan. You may not agree with your governor. You may not agree with your MCA. But they have no justification not to agree with the people of Kenya or the Republic of Kenya. And those are things that we must separate. So devolution has brought changes. For the first time, we are seeing a lot of things on the ground. For the first time, money is on the ground. For the first time, there are opportunities. These opportunities used to be there. Right now, I want you to look at this, and this is why I really want to appeal to you, especially the youth from Northern Kenya. You missed an opportunity in 1962 in order to participate in the making of that particular constitution. Just sitting somewhere and say, I'm saying no to this, does not assist. Give me 10 reasons or 1 reason why you are saying no. Or give your colleague, your neighbor, why you are saying no. The answer here is, how does this document change or improve on what we have? There is and recently I must appreciate, and I must put it on record, that as a result of the meeting that we have had, the leadership meeting that we had in Naivasha, we have had interactive sessions with both His Excellency the President and the Right Honorable Prime Minister. And I can tell you, if you look at those of you who are media savvy, the statement that was released by the leadership, the communique from Naivasha, includes there is need to critically look at the issues raised by the pastoralist communities. That issue, it is again. And then we have had a meeting in Westlands here that brought together the entire pastoralist parliamentary group members. We have had a document. We promised that we will have an interactive session with the principals. And I can confirm to you again, we have had that session with the Honorable Prime Minister, and inshallah very soon we'll also have our information as read. If you look at those of you again who have been following even the communication, the issue of pastoralists is so dear to the leadership. The issue of pastoralism is so dear to Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. He has always been an advocate of the pastoralist cause. I have no reason whatsoever today, at his age, when he has fought for the rights of the minorities, that today, at 70-something, he will just discard and say he is no longer interested to support the pastoralist cause. No way, he will not do that. The Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga is rightfully on your cause and your interest as pastoralist community. I also want to tell you, out of the many governments that we have had, the most generous government to the cause of the pastoralists is none other than the government of His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta. And you can document with yourself because history repeats itself. I have no doubt in my mind that President Uhuru Kenyatta will support issues that are so dear to the pastoralist communities. This is why I really want to appeal to you. We have the Ward Development Fund to the villages, to the wards. We still have CDF. Devolution has been increased. Is going to be made one of the cardinal constitutional principles actually in the current constitution, and therefore it will not be a favor for a young school going or someone who has completed the school in Mandera to be denied an opportunity to get an ID like it used to happen. It's going to be a constitutional provision. Isn't it a gain for the youth? It's a gain for the youth. It's a gain for the rule of law. It's a gain for constitutionalism. Equally, we have the issue of how many of us have benefited from JAB. I think quite a number, most of us, isn't it? Most of us have benefited, and I know most of us. In the old days, when we went to university, you know, getting a loan was automatic. Because the fact check the 9 principles that will bring Kenya together is what informed some of the key changes in, or the key component of the BBI report. My dear brothers and sisters, this is your time. This is our time. This is our time to be counted on. Politics aside, and you know, I am a practicing politician. When the time comes, I know what to do. For now, no politics in BBI.